Hi, my name is Cliff, and today I'd like to talk to you about poke salad. Now, I first learned about poke salad from my papa, who used to talk about the Depression and some of the foods that they ate to get through the Depression. So, um, I did ask him. I said, "Papa, let's go find some poke salad. Can we go boil some?" And he really wasn't interested in that. I guess they had such a hard time during those times that he didn't want to relive them. So I had to learn about a lot of this on my own. So I would say for most of my life I've been into wild edible plants and mushrooms as well. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about poke salad. Now, poke salad's one of those things that if you find it on the ground, it's kind of hard to identify if you haven't looked at it before. So the best way to find poke salad is to look for these plants like this. I'm going to break off a piece of this. It's dead anyway. Bring it up here and show you, but you can see the berries. You can see where there used to be berries. So once it gets red and once it gets berries, it's considered to be toxic. So we don't want to eat any of it that's at that point. So the best thing to do is find the old plants, and the old plants will help you find the new plants. And I'll put this new one up closer to the camera here so you can see a little bit better. So anyway, you find these old plants, you pick the new ones. And poke salad was one of those things that it used to be very popular in this time in this country, not just during the Depression, but during the American Civil War. Most people in the North would think it's a weed. Most people in the South would think it was delicious at the time. In fact, poke salad was so popular in the American South that Elvis Presley had a song about it, Poke Salad Annie. Even up through the 1990s, there was some companies that would still can it, and the last cannery for poke salad closed down in Arkansas sometime in the 1990s. And it wasn't necessarily because the product wasn't popular anymore. It was more had to do with picking it. So if you think about lettuce or kale or turnip greens, you could walk down a row and you can just clip whatever you need and package it up. Now this is a little bit harder. I mean, imagine having these big old plants everywhere and having to find it and use it in just the right stage. So it is important to use it at the right stage. So if you look at this poke salad, it's mostly green. It might have just a tiny little bit of red in it, but it's mostly green. The leaves are brand new. You can see this is a brand new shoot. And the reason that's important is because when it starts turning red, it starts to become toxic. Now, don't let that scare you. There's a lot of foods that we eat that are toxic in certain ways. For example, tomatoes. Tomatoes are delicious, but the leaves are toxic. Also, cashews. Cashews are in the poison ivy family, so you can eat the cashews all day long, or most people can. Some people have allergies, but you don't want to eat the rest of the cashew plant. Going back to tomatoes, tomatoes are in a nightshade family, so you don't want to eat. Anytime I hear something has to do with nightshade, my red flag goes up, and it tells me I should be very careful about what part of it I eat. Same thing with spinach. If you eat spinach, it's got some acids in it that could cause kidney stones if you eat too much spinach. So again, I'm not a nutritionist or anything. I'm just kind of relaying some of the things I've heard and some of the things that I've learned over the years. But if I'm going to cook poke salad, what I want to do is get a very tender, very young shoots like this. A lot of people talk about needing to boil it and change like 3 changes of water. If that's what you want to do, then by all means go for it. I mean, it's good to have an abundance of caution. What I've found though is that these very young leaves, I'll usually boil it once and dump the water and then use them the way that I want to. So again, or also you can take some of this red. So I can take some of these leaves, and as I peel, some of this red comes off. Now I'm not certain that whatever toxic properties has to do with the red. I just know that they're connected to where whenever you start seeing red, it becomes toxic. But these young leaves like this, they're prime. So if you're going to eat it, I would go ahead and eat it. Now, I'd never eat this plant raw. So it's called poke salad, but it's called S-A-L-A-T. So I'm not really sure exactly how we got from that to salad, or why we call this way. But from what I've heard and what I've read, salad used to not mean raw fresh leaves. Salad used to mean more like a spinach or turnip greens or something that you'd boil. So that's the way I'd use this. I'd take some of this, I'd put some wild onions and maybe some parsnips, wild parsnips, or maybe some shoots of cattails or something like that, and I'd boil it up and make a salad. So we're going to do a video where I'm going to show you how to do that. But for right now, the main things to know is this is poke salad. This is what a poke salad leaf looks like. And the way to identify poke salad is to find where old poke salad was. Again, you don't want to eat this. You don't want to eat this when it's past its prime. So right now, fresh young shoots. That's what you want to look for, and you want to look for it somewhere where poke salad grew last year. And in the next video, we'll prepare a meal using poke salad. Thank you.